see if I can turn off the car so you can hear me. Okay, so hopefully everybody can pop in real quick. So earlier we did a little bit of a live show while we were working on the rocket mass heater bench in my cabin. We were with Darwin and Melanie from the Honeydew Carpenter, so make sure to go check them out. And what we found as we put the bench together, in the end, we decided not to finish putting the bench together because what we were concerned about was that because of the height of the rocket mass heater compared to the height of the bench, we were concerned that it wouldn't flue correctly. Hey, Homesteading the Pioneer Way, hello. Paula Hayes, Tom Brown, Christy Betts, hello. So what we were concerned about was that the heat would not be able to rise. The heat and smoke would not be able to rise. And so we didn't put the rest of the pea gravel in. Let's see, Danny Bull made it. Hello. Good to see you too. Teresa Bucamp? Did I say it right? So we decided not to put the pea gravel in. We ended up trying out a commercial flue heat riser instead of his. We just wanted to see what would happen if we did. The Havmore Farm. Hey! Linda Widener came in. Hello. So we put in more of a commercial heat riser. Wanted to see what would happen with that. And what ended up happening was we didn't like the way that it pulled the heat. With the rocket mass heater, it's supposed to just suck air in, suck the flame in, suck all the gases up and through. And while it did do that with Darwin's heat riser that he made with his foam mate, which was super light. It was, how tall was it? It was probably just under 3 feet tall. And it was solid refractory mix made with his foam mate, and it worked really well. But when we put in the fire bricks that weigh 54 pounds, we had to put in 3 of them. We don't know if it was the shape or the material itself that made it so it didn't flue as well. We put it in as a test, and we didn't know if it would work. And so in the end, we feel like we're kind of comparing apples to oranges instead of apples to apples. And that is where we stopped for the night, because we looked at it and we thought, instead of trying to compare so many different things, is it the heat riser now that isn't working? Is it the fact that we're too high above our bench that isn't working? Our test run was not as positive as my first week of using it. James Moore made it. Sunny DIY made it. And so Dallas, Texas, lovely. Croatia, Elderberry Garden, Croatia, awesome. Hello, everyone. Amanda Panda said, would you do more videos on craft things you do? I would love to. Ivy says hi too. Hello. So what ended up happening was that we looked and we're like, we are tired tonight. We're comparing too many different things to things we're uncertain about. So what we're going to do in the morning is we're going to take the bench off the stove. We're going to route the chimney back through the window and just test the commercial fire brick and see does it work with the commercial fire brick, or is it just that we have to put Darwin's heat riser that he made with the foam mate back in. We just wanted to see what would happen. And so I think we got a little bit carried away with how many things we were experimenting with all at one time. And so what we're going to have to do, hey Lara Watts, how are ya? Puppy, hello. Let's see, what was that? Hello from cold, wet Detroit. Hello. DIY Solar and Wind. Hello. How are you? I hope I didn't miss anybody. Josh B. Hello. So, for the first week, the rocket mass heater worked well. At one point, I had some paper that I had put in as a fire starter that got sucked up the J-tube, and it ended up causing problems. And so more than anything, this was just, let's take it apart. Let's see what it's doing. Let's see if the refractory mix made it. and because a lot of people thought that it wouldn't make it through that kind of heat, but it made it just fine. So yeah, that's kind of where we sit. So Darwin works full time, so he won't be able to come out and do any trial running until tomorrow night. So I think what I'm going to do is tomorrow morning. Okay, let's see. Albert Boyle said, hello, you learn more from failures anyway. When you have a moment, did you figure out how to use it for dehydrating? Yes, it totally worked. It worked really well for dehydrating. Kathy Grin said, if you don't care for the pea gravel, what are you using for the mass? So we're still going to use pea gravel, but we didn't put pea gravel in the bench. The stove itself has mass that is pea gravel. There's a heat shield around the heat riser that holds pea gravel. So that it is still a rocket mass heater, even if we don't use the bench. It has mass in it. But we wanted to add more mass to it and see if it would still draw well enough to pull the heat and the smoke through the bench and then still go out the window. So that was the big, that was really the big experiment, was should we add the bench? Gregory B said, when we had race cars, you only change one thing at a time to know what the change made. Christy Betts said, how are you staying warm? So we're not right now. I am in my hometown, and we are staying with my mom at night, and I'm going to take the girls into school in the morning, and then I'm going to go work in the cabin and get the chimneys put back out through the window so that I do have heat tomorrow, and I'll play with the stove before Darwin comes. And then when Darwin comes out, we're going to war game again and see, do we still feel like we want to put it through the bench? Let's see, Joe says, what kind of car are you in? This is a caravan. This is a minivan. And it's been great for travel. Yes, we like it. Edward DeGraff said, a fascinated by your aircrete machine. Well done. Yes, it's been amazing. What he's made from it so far has been pretty cool. Nina Cabral said, hi from Patagonia. Tree climbing gear said, agreed, many failures reach success. Yes, and we have enjoyed the stove. It has worked really well. And but that's why instead of leaving it together and then just adding the bench, instead we took it apart. And when we took it apart and decided to put in that other heat riser, that was when things started to kind of go south a little bit. But it's repairable. It's not like we can't put the other heat riser in, because we can. It's actually not cold in here, but it's really cold outside, and the cabin was unheated today, so that's why I look like I'm so dressed up, was that the cabin itself was cold today because we couldn't light a fire, obviously, while we were finishing up the bench and everything. So so that's where that stands. I still think rocket mass heaters are really cool. It has been a fun project with Darwin and Melanie, and at this point, I still really would like to run it through a bench. You know, the whole point of a rocket mass heater is that you just burn it to warm the bench up, and that then you let the fire go out. Sam White said, does aircrete have good thermal mass? It doesn't. It's a good insulator because it has air in it. It's mostly air. Aircrete is mostly air. And so it's a good insulation, but it's not a good heat mass, because it would repel the heat and hold it in place rather than absorbing the heat and then releasing it out somewhere else. Adventurous Hard Park. His opinion is that I should move to the 21st century. My husband believes the same thing. I just talked to him before I started my live stream, and he offered me chocolate, a hot bath, and electric lights in Oklahoma if I would just come home tonight. So my mom did the same thing. She was making fun of me yesterday. Linda Widener said, I've cleaned sheep's wool. Do you card it? It depends on what it is. If it's super clean, I will spin it from the lock. If it has a lot of vegetable matter in it, I used to use it and clean it, and I would use the combs, the ones that kind of look like Viking Wolverine claws. But Edward asked, am I concerned about carbon monoxide poisoning? You know, I'm not concerned about carbon monoxide poisoning. We actually sleep with the windows open anyway, which I know sounds really strange, but we sleep in the lofts and we open the windows, and I feel like we sleep really well at night that way. Generally, we'll let the fire go out. I'll get up in the morning. I'll relight the fire. I close the windows. It's kind of weird. That's how we sleep. Hi, I want a rocket mass heater too. I want one with a bench right now. So Darwin created this great, amazing, wonderful stove for me. And now I'm just like, yeah, but I really want to see how it would work with a bench. Can we put a bench in? And so that's what we're working on right now, is that rocket mass heaters cannot be damped down. They're meant to be run at full bore. You just go with the rocket mass heater. You don't damp it down. You don't cut off the oxygen. You just let it burn. And that's why they work so well with a mass, is that you can burn it really hot for a short amount of time, heat up the mass, and then the mass is what keeps you warm through the rest of the day. Whereas with a regular wood stove, it's heating the air around you, so it always has to burn. With the rocket mass heater, it heats the mass, so the mass then warms you. Vicky Sandifo said, I just watched the bench build. Yeah, right? Pretty cool. Christy Bat said, my grandmother slept with the window cracked no matter how cold it was. Yes, I really love the fresh air. I feel like we sleep better at night that way. I do have the kids sleeping with me. For one thing, Kaya kicks all her blankets off. She's really, really bad about that. And she moves a lot. So I just feel better with them up in the lofts if they're both sleeping next to me. That way, if for some reason in the night something went wrong with the wood burning stove, they would be next to me. The window would already be open. I'm a very light sleeper. And so one of the things I'm most excited about the rocket mass heater with is that you actually wouldn't have a fire going at night. You'd have a fire going just before bed, and then you'd let it go out, so you wouldn't have to be thinking in the night, oh, I've got fire in the stove, maybe I should keep one ear open all night. They have more farms that I sleep at the window cracked. Always have. Yeah, I think it's just nicer. Nina Reader said, get her some footy pajamas maybe. I know, right? But she is such a kid for crawling out of things. Lately I've been making her sleep in her bathrobe so she stays a little warmer. Oh my goodness. Adventurous Aardvark said, I lock the windows and I lock the doors. Silly me. Miranda Quinn said, are you guys going to move? You may have already answered this. So John is already in Oklahoma. He's going to school there. And we're trying really hard to be there by Thanksgiving. If we can't get the stove connected to the bench, we're going to leave regardless. It's unless for some reason it turns out God really wants us to stay here. I guess we could figure that out too. So I'm not going to say that God doesn't want us here. But what we're trying to do is get to Oklahoma by Thanksgiving. And so if we don't get the bench finished, that's okay. At least we'll have the rocket mass heater with the pea gravel in the hood around the heat riser finished. So that part of the stove will be finished. And then I would assume that Darwin will be working on new prototypes over the winter with his rocket mass heater designs. Because he is a tinkerer, I would imagine that he would keep tinkering with his designs so that when I get back in spring, we could add it to a bench. So the bench actually looks really cool. And if we can't turn it into the heat retaining bench, I think we'll just put a lid on it and put cushions on it and use it as a couch, if that makes sense. What's time? What's time? The Have More Farm said it's time. What is it time for? Oh, it's time to leave? Yes, right. It is. It's time to leave. Christy Bett said, my kids always wore those blanket footy pajamas in Kansas. They kicked covers off. Aardvark, I've missed you from the live shows. You can always light a fire under me, can't you? God is building a volcano there. Not sure he wants you to stay unless you like really warm weather. Well, I am trying to get things wrapped up. I know nobody believes me that I'm trying to get things wrapped up, but I don't want to leave you guys hanging and being like, okay, did the rocket mass heater work? Did it not work? Did the tiny house work? Did it not work? You know, I don't feel like I can leave people hanging, so we do have to kind of finish it. Oh, hey, Paul. So, Paul said, looked at some of the videos. I would discourage the use of metal in the core. Yes, and the book that Darwin used was Erica and Ernie's book. So if you guys, it's Erica and Ernie Weisner So if you guys are looking into building a rocket mass heater, that's the book that Darwin took it from. And we did have when Darwin made the heat riser, he purposefully put aluminum in it, knowing that it would melt out. So the heat riser itself is not metal. He has a refractory mix on the inside of the, he has a refractory mix that he made on the inside of the heat riser, if that makes sense. So it's not metal in contact. It's not metal in contact with the fire. Sue Martin said, "Hi, Dirtpatcheaven, love the hat. This one was made by Laurie Family Homestead by their daughter Heather, and I have the girls each have some as well." Just so you guys know, Paul Wheaton did just do what they called the Jamboree up at their place, where they built a ton of small and large rocket mass heaters. They did a rocket mass heater inside a hugelkultur to see if they could just heat this enormous hill of dirt. They put a new rocket mass heater in the little red cabin that I stayed in. It didn't used to draw very well, and it didn't keep the cabin very warm, but they put a new one in that looks quite different. It has, if I remember correctly, they have kind of like a hive style on it now that has bricks, and it's actually kind of pretty in the little red cabin now. So they did that for the Jamboree. And then was there another one that I'm missing? I think they also did a new batch box. And so if you go over to Rich Soil or over to Permies.com, they had a thread on it. They had a thread on the Jamboree and on the tiny, the rocket mass heaters for tiny spaces. And I believe they had pictures there. And also, who else was it? It was... oh, what was his name? It was Dan over at the Grass-Fed Homestead. If you guys know about the Grass-Fed Homestead, he went and took some videos over at Paul's and showed the stoves. I was thinking of going up and looking at them, but Dan did such a good job over at the Grass-Fed Homestead. I figured he covered it as well as I could have. So, let's see. Sam Waite said, "Have you seen My Little Homestead's mass heater?" I have. The one that looks like a dragon. It looks really cool. Crazy Days. Hey, Wanda. That's Wanda from Deep South Homestead. Crazy Days. Tom Brand said, "Okay, gets cold too," or Oklahoma gets cold too. That's what John said. He says they've been down in the 30s a bit. 30s to 50s. Gregory B said, "You're a stubborn child. Good luck, kid." I am a stubborn child. I'm glad you still think I'm a child, since I'm looking at myself in the camera and thinking, oh my goodness, those wrinkles are coming on fast. I must be stressed out. Miranda Quinn. Oh, thank you. That was really kind. I don't know how to make that work on this, but thank you, Miranda. That was very kind. Puppy said, "I want an itty bitty house." Miranda Quinn left a lovely donation. Thank you. That was really kind. In the Making Homestead said, "I just came in. Did you say what you're doing with your little cabin? Bringing it with you, leaving it behind?" We will be leaving it behind because whether we sell the house or just come back to be with family in the summer when John's done with school, we need somewhere to stay. And I adore it. John's not a huge fan of it. But now that we have a bench that we can turn into a couch, maybe there will be more places for him to lay down and relax. We have had an offer to sell it. We have a friend that would like to buy it here locally. And I haven't given him an answer because it makes me really sad to sell it, but it would be an option. Firebrick Paul, great to say hi. Great. Okay, where are we? So Paul, I saw he was using aircrete. Yes, he didn't just use aircrete though. What he did was he entrained water glass into it, and we burned it for a week, and the top got cherry red just like it's supposed to with a rocket mass heater, and the heat riser did not fail. We dug into it after a week where we had been running it really hot for a week. We had temperatures. He tested it before we put it into the cabin, and it had temperatures in excess of 1800 and higher, 1800 degrees. And when we got it into the cabin, we did get it up to heat really good, and it was turning red on the top when we got it really hot. So it was very, very, very hot. When it was running when the top of the heat riser was running at 700 degrees, when it wasn't cherry red, somewhere between 700 and 900 degrees. And then we had other times when it was cherry red. So everything functioned just fine. And then after a week of burning it like that, we pulled everything apart and looked at the heat riser. And the water glass that he had soaked aircrete in a solution of water glass. So he made the heat riser and then he soaked that in water glass. And when he soaked it in water glass, it soaked in. When we took it apart and did not an autopsy but exploratory surgery, the water glass had soaked in this far, and then he would put Portland cement on that. So the water glass would still be in there, but the Portland cement pulled the water itself out of the aircrete. So the water glass stayed in, but the water came out with the Portland cement, and then and so it worked just fine. And what we're going to do is he's going to make a newer one, and this time he's going to put, he also had pumice in it, and so he's going to take the pumice and have that on his pumice. So he's going to take the water glass, put it on the pumice, and then he's going to take the pumice and put it through the foam mate and put it into the aircrete so that the water glass is on the pumice, and he's going to try that next. So we're trying a whole bunch of different blends. The first one worked totally well, and we got video of it working and still having its structural integrity, and it didn't crumble in the heat. So it's really pretty exciting that it worked. It was so light, and the fire bricks that we have in it now that we're testing are 54 pounds a piece. So we have over 150, and I think we use 3 of them as heat risers now. So there's 3 of them in there. So that weighs 150 pounds as compared to 8 pounds that his heat riser was. So super, super fun. Let's see. What do you mean the Cyclone does not have a barrel? Is that one of the stoves that you just did? The Cyclone, is that the one in the little red house? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, 2 of them were overhauled. I know the one in the little red house didn't work very well, but it wasn't made by Ernie and Erica, and if I remember right, it was made by somebody who was just on your property, right? That was new, that was just kind of playing with them. Let's see, Darwin is trying to call, but I can't stop in the middle. Hey Amanda Panda, see ya. So Sunny DIY said, I was looking at my little homestead's old rocket mass heaters, and I really like the idea of the one that heats the floor 3 years ago for a greenhouse. Oh my goodness, am I way far away from all my adventures? Hardbark says stubborn is Mrs. Yes, I am very stubborn. I don't know how, yeah. Sorry, stubborn is Mrs. Dirt's middle name. So true. Thanks, Nina Reader. The Have More Farm said, start again with a different shed and do it with all the new inventions you have. I know, right? That would be something, wouldn't it? Hey, thanks. Thanks for taking care of that. Tom Brown said, don't sell it at the cabin. Mike Doyle said, I'm going to wrap fire brick with copper and cover in cob. Water mass and bench heat, why not? Vicky Sandifo said, are the floors in the little house insulated? They're not, and they've been fine so far. Is that what I said, Josh B? What was it I said? Oh, you're right. It's not pumice, it's perlite. Sorry, Josh. It wasn't pumice, it was perlite. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Let's see. Paul Wheaton said, perhaps you all should come out here for a day or 2 and build a shippable core using some of the materials we have here. That would be fun. I would love to go and introduce you to Darwin and have him meet you. That would be super fun. I will have to ask Darwin about that and see. He has a full-time job, so it's kind of hard to get out there. Let's see. Paul Wheaton said, the Minnie Mouse rocket mass heater has been moved to the Love Shack. It has been overhauled and is working really well. Is that the one So the Love Shack is the really tiny one, not the red one, right? See, Aardvark. Hey, Keeping It Dutch made it. How are ya? The new Cyclone rocket mass heater in the red cabin does not have a barrel. Okay, gotcha. Because that's what I remember, is that it had bricks and looked more like a beehive, almost like a bread oven kind of a look. Yes, let's see. Joe DeJong said, come down to Texas. Lots of work for your husband welding down here. Okay, so Darwin's not my husband. He's Melanie's husband over at the Honeydew Carpenter. So my husband is in Oklahoma right now. Israel Rodriguez said, did you make that hat? It looks really warm. I did not. It was Laurie Family Homestead. So Heather made it, and she is amazingly talented. Noah Sark 1962 said, I'm pretty interested in them, but wonder if it would pass our codes. I don't know. I think the best place to look that up is probably over on Paul's site, richsoil.com or permies.com. He has Ernie and Erica Weisner. They wrote the book that is just pretty much the Bible on rocket mass heaters, and they're the ones who really could tell you about code and could tell you about how to keep it safe. They're fantastic. Let's see. Okay, so Paul said the Love Shack is the skiddable porta cabin. Okay, and I don't think I've been in that one personally. I don't think I've seen that one. Paul Wheaton said, rocket mass heaters are getting into more and more building codes, and insurance companies are warming up to it. And see, the thing I love about rocket mass heaters is that you're not burning all day long, and it's so well insulated from everything. What is there to burn? The fire gets sucked up the chimney up the tube, and eventually it does make it out the chimney. But by the time it comes out the chimney, it's like 150 degrees, and it's mostly water vapor by that time. And so for me, I think there's such a delightful solution. Learning Curve Acre said, I'm wanting to do a rocket mass heater for my greenhouse. If you want to see that, I know that Paul, they did some in ground this last time. They did one in the actual hugelkultur. And so for me, what really got me excited was seeing what they've done up at Paul's. I do have a video out there about visiting Paul, and so does Justin Rose. There's a lot of people who've gone and seen Paul Wheaton's rocket mass heater in his living room, and it's fantastic. Apparently it gets so hot that it sucks the flame off the wood, and they had to actually slow it down by putting more bends into the mass, into the bench. But we wanted to build one here just with what was available, and Darwin is a welder, so we've experimented with it and it's worked. The heat riser has worked, even though it is made out of Portland cement and perlite, and I don't know why I said pumice earlier. That's not right. I'll have to go in and try and like put words over it that says not pumice, perlite. Let's see. So, let's see what was just said. Yeah. So anyway, I have to go find my kids at their granny's house and have a bit of a night with them, since we've been out at the cabin all day without them. And we won't be having them sleep in the cabin again until we have everything finished, put in right. And so it might be a little bit before they're back out there again, because we are a little concerned that the fire bricks are not going to do as well as the Aircrete heat riser did. So let's see. David Peterson said, I really like all the experiments he's done with the Aircrete. Have you thought of going for best sustainable homes for dome homes with off-grid abilities? I think all that would be really cool. Obviously it's Darwin over at Honeydew Carpenter who has all that in his brain. But anyway, I've got to go hang out with my kids a little bit tonight and get showered, because we've been out playing in soot and it's been a little bit dirty. But thanks, and make sure to go check out the Honeydew Carpenter, because they're the ones that have made all this possible, and they are so fun to watch. And I think it's amazing that Darwin has, in such a short amount of time, been able to figure out how to make such a light heat riser that will work. So anyway, we will talk to you later.